All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Haven Podcast. We are in a little bit of a different atmosphere today. Today we're hanging out with Caleb Dissmore at his house.
What's up?
How long have you guys lived here?
We lived here for about 3 months.
Okay.
We actually lived like 2 doors down, and then like our landlord was like, "Hey, I have like a whole house that I'm renting, and it's gonna be the same price as what you're renting right now." So I'm like, okay, like what's the catch? And he's like, "Well, there's no catch." So I'm like, "Okay, we'll do it."
There we go.
It had terrible smelling carpet when we came in, but it smelled like a dog just like peed everywhere. But which was
it's. I mean, I don't see any remnants of that now. It's great in here now. I love it.
Yeah, I know. It's good now. Yeah, I'm super glad we got rid of that. Me and Jillian, my wife, we got in here and like we started looking around and we're like, why in the world did we agree? Because there's just like, we look in the middle of the floor and there's just like this dark stain. I'm like, really hope that's just, I don't even know what I hope. Someone spilled a Coca-Cola or coffee.
Yep.
And then it's not a big old dog that just, yeah.
So was there carpet in here when you first got here?
There was all carpet.
Okay.
And then that night it was like midnight. I don't know why we called our landlord and we're like, "Hey, I know it's like a day before we're supposed to move in, but can we like tear up the carpet?" And he was like, "I guess." And we ended up like working with him and we like sanded everything down.
Okay.
All the floors, so it's like wood floor now. And he's super gracious with us, and that's one thing we really appreciate about him. He's just super kind to us. Man, it's really cool. Like God has put him in our lives to just bless us and bless me and Jillian in our marriage, just even at the beginning. So it's really cool.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, you guys have done a really good job. I love the way it's decorated and everything. This is like such a cool vibe.
I don't take any credit for it. It's all Jillian. She's the one. She's the designer, and I'm just kind of there to enjoy it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, I feel the same way. People will come over to our house and be like, "This is so cool." I'm like, I helped put stuff together, but none of this is like my taste.
Like all the plants.
I'm like,
I wonder if Luke is putting all these plants here, or if that's Anna. I wondered that. I was like, I bet that's Anna. Not Luke, but that's funny.
She pieced it all together.
That's cool.
And then even like on Sunday, like if I ever get a compliment on like, "Oh man, like your outfit, like I like your outfit," it's either one, I'm wearing her clothes, or I'm wearing clothes that she like picked out for me.
Yeah, my wife trusts me. Don't worry about it.
Right.
Go say that to Anna.
Yep.
That's funny.
So like if I ever wear something that like I picked out and chose, typically don't get many compliments on it.
I get that.
People would be like, "Wow, I really like that hoodie." I'm like, "Yep."
But when you do get like a good compliment and like you picked it out, man, that like changes your whole mood for the whole day.
Yes.
Like, it feels good.
So yes, I finally got it right. Right.
Dude.
I love it.
I live for those moments.
Well, I want to kind of jump into, we had talked some about beforehand about what we wanted to talk about a little bit. Yeah. And I think that just like the timing for it is really good for a conversation like this. Yeah. And we had talked some about just some conversations and stuff that I think even we both have been having in different circles. Yeah. About just this idea of Christian nationalism. Yeah. And I know it comes up a lot at this time of year, especially in an election year. Yeah. Those conversations and feelings and stuff just can really get riled up. What do you feel like has been on your heart with that idea and what's kind of been going through your mind?
Yeah, I think one thing that has like sparked this in me is I've been seeing just like there's this really, he's not super famous pastor, but he has been posting like stuff about like, if you vote for these people, like you're going to hell, like just straight up like stuff like that. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I didn't know the Bible said that. And now, I'm obviously like it doesn't, but like it's just stuff like that just like makes me mad because unfortunately like people see pastors like that as these big spiritual figures and they just want to, like, they'll believe anything that they say. And it's so damaging. So that kind of stuff has been stirring in my mind, and I talk with Jillian about it all the time, and we get fired up about it, and we get angry, and we're like, okay. But what about you? What have you been kind of talking about with other people right now?
Yeah, so I think that part of where it has like circled through with me is just the panic of trying to preserve. And that like I can see Christian nationalism a lot of times coming out in that of like, if we don't preserve this one part of our nation or whatever, everything is going to be terrible, and like just acting like if certain things change that like our lives are over. And I think that happens again when we have our nation on a pedestal that it's not supposed to be on.
Like, this is God's chosen land. I'm like, well, is it really? Is it really?
Yeah.
You know, first of all, I just think no law or anything or like policy will ever fix everything. Like nothing will ever like fix humanity. And I think just like people put so much of, maybe unintentionally put so much of their faith in politics, and especially like if they consider like a certain party like God's party, you know, and which is it's just not biblical, and it actually does more damage to bringing people to Jesus, I feel like.
Yeah. And like what I heard someone say the other day that it just like has been sticking in my mind, because I was like, that just makes so much sense. There's this guy, I can't remember his name, but he just wrote a book called Exiles. And it's this book about how we as God's people are actually supposed to be living as exiles where we are.
Yeah.
Knowing that where we're going is heaven, and that's our true home.
Yeah.
And that like that should be changing how we are thinking about like preserving the country that we live in as far as like America.
Yeah.
He was like, if we don't think of ourselves as exiles, then we're going to be way too worried about what's going on here.
That's true. Yeah.
And so he was talking about like, when God's people were exiles in Babylon.
Yeah.
He was like, do you think that God's people were like divided over like which king in Babylon they thought was better? Like he was like, that's just probably not the discussion they were having, because they knew that wasn't their home, and that they were like headed somewhere else, that this didn't really matter.
Yeah.
Like it didn't mean they didn't care about the people they were living around, but like they saw past it, I think. He even said like the early church after Jesus, he's like, do you think they were arguing about like which Caesar was better? Like probably not.
Probably not. They were worried about going to the Colosseum and getting killed.
Right.
Like I'm glad that like we don't have to do that and whatnot, but like we still got to have perspective of like what really matters.
Right.
You know, it's not like political things like don't matter as much as we probably think they do.
What would you say is a more maybe like balanced biblical view of interacting with like politics specifically? So like, I think sometimes people can go like, well, I'm an exile here, so I just don't even care, and they just don't interact with it at all. Like that's kind of an extreme we probably don't have to go to.
Yeah, definitely.
But, like, what do you feel like is like a way of kind of holding the tension of both sides? Of like, I'm not putting too much in it, but I'm also not completely throwing it out the door.
Yeah, I think like I get tempted sometimes to just be like, I'm just not even gonna pay attention to anything. Like, and I don't think that's helpful for anybody. But like I also don't think you should be like, I'm a diehard like Republican or Democrat, you know, like or so I don't know, like I mean, this is just my opinion. I'm not like a professional like person or whatever. I don't know. But I think just voting and just like even just advocating for things that you see as a Christian that need to be different. And even if it like means that like your vote is gonna lose. I think. And I think starting, like, I think some people, like, I hear this term a lot with, like, old people. I feel like is like, well, you got to vote for the lesser evil. I'm like, well, I mean, like, that just keeps the trend going of allowing evil to rule. And I think just, I don't know, voting for things, even if you know, like, the right thing, even if you know it's going to lose. And I think, in reality, just showing love to people is what is maybe actually going to change the world.
Right.
And not maybe, I think it will.
Right.
And I think realizing that too, and I think when you start doing that, like, and stop having so much faith in politics or like a politician, and start showing people love and actually doing service in your community, that's when you see really big change, I think. Yeah. And even in the past year, as we've been at Mercy Road, I feel like we've seen like lots of change happen because we've been able to help the community with different things. Yeah. You know, politicians or in politics have been here forever, but like serving the community is what really actually helps. Yeah.
And I think part of what you said is just like so good, of just talking about how we should be voting for something even if it doesn't go, even if we think it's not going to go through. Yeah. Because I think sometimes people just get defeated because it's like, I'm trying and nothing is happening. But that it's more of like a personal thing of like, I am going to vote for this because I personally am going to like stand on saying that I think that this needs to happen or this thing is true. And I think that is valuable. And I think that God honors that. Yeah, definitely. And that God isn't like, hey, just don't worry about it if in your area it's not going to go through. That God still has an obligation on us to like still step into those spaces. Yeah. So. And
I think that's what starts even just movements and stuff like that. Like people are seeing, you know, if you just totally give up on it, it's like, well, it's not going to go through anyway. So I'm not going to fight for it. Like, fight for that. Like, that's how you start a movement, and that's how you start to see change.
Yeah. The other thing that I think, like even like what I was saying before, is being able to vote and like leave it there. Oh my gosh. I'm going to go and I'm going to vote for this person, and then I'm like leaving it alone there. Yeah. I think that's an important piece of it too. Of not like, I'm going to vote and then I'm going to sit and be nervous and what if, and I'm refreshing the thing over and over, seeing who's going to win. Like, oh my gosh. Go like, this is my personal conviction of who I think I should vote for. Like, I'm going to put this in, and then it's
like, it's in God's hands. Like,
it's in God's hands, and the outcome like is out of my hands too.
Yeah. Like, God, you got control of this. You know, I felt like this is what I needed to do, and I trust that you're going to take care of everything. Yeah. You know? Yeah, that's a good, I haven't really thought about that a lot, but like, I remember when I was in college, like 4 years ago, like just after that election in 2020, like people were voting and everyone was just like refreshing their phones, like worried about like different things and whatnot. And I'm like, guys, let's just calm down. Like stop worrying about who's going to be president now, or is our life ruined? And then people think that sometimes, like,
or people think they got to leave the country if a certain person wins. Yeah, I know that I've heard that the last
from like celebrities and stuff like okay, whatever. Like speaking back in college, like I went to college in Springfield, Missouri, and have you ever heard of like the Bible Belt? Yep. They called Springfield, Missouri, the buckle of the Bible Belt.
Okay, so you're like,
it was like the epicenter of like Western Christianity, basically. Okay. Like, and I'm on like this floor with just everybody is just like hardcore Republican, like, and I was just around a bunch of early 20-year-olds and 19 and 18-year-olds, but everyone was so hateful about their beliefs on like who they were voting for, and where like I just did not want to be like on the floor hanging out with people because everyone was just yelling at not yelling at each other, but like passive aggressive, like you're dumb, you're an idiot, like. Yep. And that's one thing I think affects the church a lot, is just like a lot of disunity, and especially when like pastors like get up on stage and say stuff like, you need to vote for this person, or you're disobeying God. And that's one thing I appreciate about our church is like, I don't think we've talked about like from stage, I don't think we've talked about any kind of politics really. But like I've seen churches where like it's a political church and trying to get different political agendas across. And honestly, most of them are just preaching to the choir. Yeah. Because everyone there probably already has their same like beliefs that the pastor does. Yeah. On stuff. Yeah. But I don't know, that kind of stuff bothers me too. Just like the disunity and we can't agree to disagree with people. And yeah, like one thing I kind of like to do and like kind of hate to do is like I'll like re-download Facebook. And for some reason over the years, like a lot of just like older people that just somehow know me or like know my parents or like are in my family, they just start posting the most terrible like stuff on Instagram or on Facebook about like just politics. And oh my gosh, like one of my favorite things was like it was about Donald Trump, and it was like right after he got shot in the ear or whatever. And someone was like, he took a bullet for us so that he could save our country or something like that. I'm like how are you doing like, and these are like church like leaders, like people that I was like in Missouri with. I'm like, you are working for like church and like high up in a church. Why are you saying crap like that?
And that's what's always so scary to me. Like, and that's the reason why I feel like this conversation is so important, is because it's like, I'm not just saying like, don't say it because it's dumb. I'm saying like, it's hurting your witness as a Christian.
It is.
Like, it's actually making it to where people are going to not want to hear about Jesus because you're comparing.
Yes.
Regardless of what side it's on, you're comparing a broken person to Jesus.
If you're being a jerk to someone to get them to vote for your person, like they're not going to want to come to Jesus. Probably not going to want to vote for your person either. But definitely not come to Jesus.
Yeah. Again, like I was saying before, but we get it backwards and think that our person that we are getting in there is like for God. So then we get confused if you go, oh, well, like I'm pushing for it so hard because I'm really trying to push for God.
And I think that's why, I think that's definitely why like people get so behind like different candidates and whatnot.
Well, and I think like so there's two different things that I feel like happen as far as the like Christian nationalism thing goes. I feel like there's two different ways that I can see it play out.
Yeah.
One of them is, I feel like it causes me to read the Bible through a filter of being an American.
Yeah.
So then, like, if I read in the Bible something about God's chosen people, then I think it's talking about me. Or, you know what I mean? Like, then I'm reading the Bible and I'm reading it through a filter. Or I have these moral things in the Bible, and I start to blur the lines into the morals of the country.
Yeah.
And then I like can't see between the two. Yeah. And then now I see like freedom of speech, which obviously is great.
Yeah.
Like it's a good thing. Like I almost see that as like a biblical truth or like something I like am supposed to be able to have.
Yeah.
And I think that can happen sometimes too.
Yeah, definitely.
And that line gets blurred.
You grew up homeschooled, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Like I grew up going to like Christian school my whole life, and like we had Bible class every day and whatnot, and but so like definitely like that kind of stuff was, so that stuff was drilled into me every day. Like first year a Christian, and then barely underneath that you're a patriot. I think my school, my elementary school, I think the mascot was the Patriots. I think about it. So it's, and then the other school I went to, the colors were red, white, and blue. So it very America, you know. So,
gung ho and yep.
Yeah. So like I've definitely felt that too, of like different like things of an American are part of the Bible, and then like the past 5 years of my life, I've just trying to learn the Bible for myself and not just rely on what people have told me. And I'm like, that's not true. Wait, where did I hear that from? Oh, wait, that's not true either. That's not what Jesus says in the Gospels.
Yep.
And so like it's, I think in the past few years, it's like been really eye-opening to me, just to like really like study the Bible myself and realize like there's a lot of, I was kind of exposed to a lot of like Christian not like maybe intense Christian nationalism, but like I was kind of taught some of that as a child. And I don't know if you've have you experienced kind of that?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I think, you know, Indiana. It's kind of common.
Yeah.
Especially like growing up in Christian households. Maybe, But
I think sometimes when people are trying to pass down their faith to their children or pass it down in the schools or whatever it would be, we can just take it too far of we want to convince them so much of Jesus that we just we mix too many things into it.
Yeah.
And then we say like, oh, well, like God loves you because God loves this country, or, you know, and we try to do that to add weight to it.
Yeah.
When really, like you were saying, then you get older and you start to realize, wait a second, this isn't in the Bible. They always told me this and this wasn't there.
Yeah.
And it can a lot of times cause people to go away. So obviously, like, it's good that you were able to see it and not go away and like lean in more, but yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I think just in general, not even in that realm of, you know, Christian nationalism or whatever. I think it's just good for people in general just to read the Bible for themselves and like understand like why they believe certain things.
Mm-hmm. One thing that I always think, and I think that we've even had this conversation before, you'll have to tell me if this like fits into what you're picturing, but this idea that people are going to hate you as a Christian. So then it just means like you can be however mean you want to be. You can be a jerk to people because Jesus said that Jesus said people are going to hate us, like, and that people use it as a way to get around being kind. Yeah,
we definitely did talk about that, and that's like something I heard a lot, like growing up in Christian school, like especially, I don't know why. We like my school like always thought we were gonna get in these situations, but like the school I grew up, they believed in like the earth was like only like 6,000 years old or something like that, and they were like huge fans of like Ken Ham and whatnot. Okay. And like the Creation Museum. Yeah. And like for some reason, like we were like told like we need to defend that belief that the earth is like 6,000 years old. I'm like, okay, whatever. Who knows how old it is? But, but like, it was like we were like taught that like all the time, and we were like supposed to like come up with like different like debate things of like how we can like almost like debate someone to believe the right thing. And I'm like, that's not really showing love to people. Like some people, they may find Jesus through scientific stuff like that. I don't know. Yeah. Me personally, no. Yeah. But if we're gonna do it in like a hateful, like, hey, you're wrong and I'm right, like, that's not gonna help like your witness towards that person. Yeah. But I have, definitely like, you need to be aggressive towards people because it's okay because you're just doing the right thing. How about we calm down a little bit, right, Karen?
Well, and then like, the one that I just always go back to is like Jesus is saying like what people will know us by, like how people will know that we're followers of Jesus. Yeah. And I think we've plugged so many other things into that and try to make it something else, like act like Jesus said, like, and people will know that I am who I said I am because when you convince them that the world was this old, they're gonna see that I'm the Son of God. You know what I mean? Yeah. Or like, and people will know that you are a Christian because you defended this random thing about your country. Like, that's not why. But he's like, they'll know you by your love.
Yeah, they should know you by your love.
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's like, if we can go back to that and take some of these other things that we've, like you were saying, Christian and this other thing is right here. Like, if we can go back to not having those things that are so close to us being a Jesus follower, and like I think you said earlier, just actually loving people on the ground, like loving the people that are in your community and they're around you, like that would probably be what would actually win people over.
Like, and one thing I've realized even in the past year is there's like already, I think about things of like, I think about like homeless people or like just different people in the community I think that could like need help, and I'm like, man, I want to start like I had this thought of like, man, I want to start some kind of like homeless ministry or whatever. And then I realized like there's like tons of them around. And I'm like people are doing it. And like, I just think that like sometimes we don't inform ourselves of like how many other ministries are around and like how we could be helping other ministries already that are there. Which I'm not saying that like we don't need any more homeless ministries. There's already like 3.
Right.
Like we need more.
Yeah.
Just like how we need more churches, we need more believers. But I think it's like I want to challenge people to like look up different ministries in your city. Like how can I be helping just be the hands and feet of Jesus, literally, and helping people in my community find clothes, find food, find, just even someone to talk to. And I think that maybe going back to, political views and stuff like that gives us great perspective on people, legitimately like the people that live in your city.
Real life people.
Not just the people that you go to church with or the people that you have known your entire life that have great lives, but seeing people that are literally at rock bottom that need someone. I think that just brings great perspective.
That's really good. And I think part of why we have the panic or the sense of like being so intense about who's going to win, I really think a lot of times that's because we aren't having actual interactions with people, like real people, like talking to real people.
Yes.
Like I think like, for example, if I don't know anyone who ever has migrated here.
Yeah.
And the only context I have is that they're all terrible people.
Yeah.
then I'm gonna be go and vote scared because the only context I have is that they're gonna come in and try and kill me or something.
Yeah.
But like there's people that I've talked to that are amazing people.
Yes.
There are people that like have maybe been trying to be a citizen for forever. They've been working for 10 years to be able to do this. There's people that we've talked to that have said like they have tried to get lawyers to be able to become a citizen, and the lawyers steal the money from them. Like they have them pay them a bunch of money, and then they steal the money because they know they can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
Like you start to hear stories and stuff like that, and then it's like, oh, like I'm putting a face to this belief that I have that now, like you were saying before, is giving me a little bit more context now.
Yes.
Because I actually know real life people.
Yeah, like get to know people. Like one thing, like this is I feel terrible like that I believe this like as a kid, but like growing up, some of my teachers, some of just people that I knew would say like they would just hate on homeless people. Some people would be like, they just need to go down to McDonald's and get a job. And I'm like, and as a 10-year-old boy, and I'm like, yeah, why don't they just do that? Like, it just seems weird to me. Like, or as a probably like young teenage boy, I'd be like, if I was homeless, I could get out of it real fast or whatever. And like just like this naive thinking. And unfortunately, like some people just like it is literally impossible for them to get out of it.
Yeah.
Out of the situation that they're in. Like I met a guy one time, and just talking with him for like a few days, just realized like he just has extreme mental health issues, or just different medical issues that just doesn't allow him to be able to take care of himself. And unfortunately, there's just no one there to take care of him. His family kicked him out of his house. And so he's just by himself. Like he's just not mentally capable of doing the steps to get out of his situation. Or there's people that they're single mothers and they get kicked out of their apartment because they just cannot pay rent. Like that stuff is real. And like growing up, I was just, people are like, oh, they just need to go get a job. They need to stop just sitting on the side of the road. I'm like, I think about that now. I'm like, guys, can we have compassion? Like literally, what did Jesus say in the Bible, like about people like that? We need to help take care of them. And now I think like giving money to homeless people is great. I think also like setting them up for success is like way, way better. And I think like, that's why I think we need more homeless ministries. I think we need more people to help different things like that. And people need to get more perspective of that.
Yeah.
Like it's not people just trying to trick you to get your tax money. People are actually in need. and need help.
Mm-hmm. With things like homelessness, with things like social justice, with things like abortion. If our first thought is, what does my side say about it? What does my political side say about it?
That's the bad. That's
like that's a sign of Christian nationalism at that point. If your mind goes to that before, what, like you were saying before, what did Jesus say I was supposed to do for this people group?
Yeah.
Like, hopefully we can get to the point where our mind goes there first instead of, my side says this about that. Like, that's like scary.
We just have to look at everything through a biblical view, literally everything, and not just, when I'm reading my Bible or I'm at church, like every part of our life, like how is this going to glorify God? Is this, now I don't think we have to overthink everything, but like me drinking this coffee, is that glorifying God? That's just overthinking. But,
right.
But like when it comes to people and bigger things like this, I think like you have to just like, is that going to please God if I vote for that or whatever? Or like, what's pleasing to God? And like, what would Jesus do?
Yeah. And like typically when we're thinking that way, we'll go way past voting.
Yeah.
Like we'll vote, but then we're, like you were saying, gonna actually go and be the hands and feet and actually do something.
Yeah.
More than just like, well, I put my thing in and kind of let people know my opinion of what I think on the thing, but like that, now I'm done.
Yeah.
Like when we think about it, it's like, oh, Jesus didn't say anything about like anything about the voting of anything of that sort of kingdom. He gave us rules on how to live as a kingdom citizen and said like, if you're a follower of me, you serve the widow and the orphan, and you, like, they even had things of like, you leave certain parts of your crop behind for people who may be hungry or may not have enough. Like, these things were built into just like being a Jesus follower.
Yeah.
And didn't necessarily have to be a part of like the overarching government.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think like one thing that was pushed on like our generation, I guess, and like one thing I heard in Christian school all the time was, there's like that verse that talks about like, basically, if you don't work, you don't eat. And that was like a big thing that was pushed on like me as a child, like, don't be lazy, don't be a lazy person.
Interesting.
And a lot of people just view people that are struggling as just like lazy, and that is just crazy to me. And so I've heard people be like, well, if they're in that situation, they just got themselves there. And I'm like even if that is the case, like let's help them get out of it so their kids don't be in that situation.
Right.
Or they can just get out of that situation in general.
Right.
And so I feel like that's a big thing too with, I don't know why, like that verse was like always like pushed at me, like, don't be lazy, don't be, like, if you're going to eat, you got to work. And like, you don't want to be one of them lazy people that take up our tax dollars. Like we need to take care of people. Like if we love Jesus took care of us. Now let's be like Jesus.
It's like, were we perfect and had it all together when Jesus came and saved us?
No.
Like, we were completely lost, struggling, had nothing at all.
Yes.
Like, so when we see it through that lens of, oh, Jesus helped me when I truly did not deserve it.
Yeah.
Then I'm going to be more willing to help someone else who maybe they don't deserve it. Maybe they really did make some tough decisions to be able to be in the spot that they were in.
Yeah.
But like, that doesn't negate the factor, like remove the ability for me to be able to go and like still step into that and help them somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just all comes down like, just be like Jesus. Try your best. I think in that, just in everything. Like, like, okay, God, okay, Jesus, like, help me to reflect you in everything I do. Help me, like, the reflection, how I talk to people, how I see people, like, give me better perspective. And I think, like, and that's just something that, like, we just truly have to want. And I think when we ask God that, he'll start, like, putting things in our life to, like, test that a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's convicting for me because I'm like, I'll ask God, like, God, help me to be more patient. And he'll like put something in my life that just annoys me. And I learn to be patient. even though it's a struggle. But yeah, I think just in everything, and I think if we just become more like Jesus, that'll just help us. I don't want to be cliche, but I think it'll help us like save our world and save our community and save people around us. And politics can't do that. Right. Politics can't save our world. Right. And it's only Jesus, and we have to have the heart to just be the hands and feet of Jesus.
Yeah. So good.
Yeah.
I love it, dude.